Welcome, everyone, to Serving in Business. This is your host, Steve Ramona, and I am going international today. I have a wonderful guest. You're going to love her. This is Karina Kantas. She's an award-winning filmmaker and award-winning author. Welcome to the call, Karina, to the podcast, actually.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. Hello, everyone.
Well, I just said those are great credentials. So let's dive into it. What got you to write a book and become a filmmaker? Let's start with that.
I wrote my first book when I was 20. I didn't get it published until I moved to Greece, which is where I live. I wrote because I was fed up of hearing the voices in my head telling me what to do, and I needed to get them out. And all the ideas that were swimming around for so many years, I had so many ideas for books that it needed to come out. And the only way you can do that is when you write. And I do it the old-fashioned way, pen and paper, and then it goes onto the computer. And I keep all my pads, all my working pads, so you can imagine how many suitcasefuls of old notebooks I have, because I've been at this for 27 years now. I've got 14 books. I'm self-published. I'm also with a hybrid publisher, and I'm also with a contracted publisher. So I've done all three ways that you can do it. As for the filmmaking, I did a documentary about COVID. This was before the pandemic hit. We had so much news from other countries, but no one knew really what was going on. No one knew the truth. So I started having these meetings with these people that lived in Japan, in where were they? Romania, England, then there was Brazil, all people around the world, 12 countries I spoke to. And I asked them, how is your government treating you? What's going on with the pandemic? Are you stuck indoors? Have you got food? And so I put it together because at the international film festivals, for a short film, it has to be less than 40 minutes. So I put together just 2 interviews, put something nice on the front, some music and everything, put it into a nice package, sent it off, and I've won 3 awards for International Film Festival Awards for Best Documentary for that. And my book trailers, which I make myself, and I also create them for my clients, I've won, out of 23 awards, I've won 16 best trailer or best, I won 1 for best director of a short film and best trailers. So yeah, that's where my International Film Festival Awards have come from.
Those are cool projects. And I have voices in my head, but it's not about writing books. I got to get those voices out of my head. Probably need a coach, but wow, that's interesting. I've known you a little bit and I've learned a lot about you here. What was the inspiration? Again, you said it's the voices in your head, but with COVID and everything, is there one thing that happened to inspire you to write about COVID and do movies about COVID and different books?
The COVID documentary, it was because of no one knew what was going on. There was so many different news people saying different things. And I was doing a podcast anyway, and I thought, well, this would make a really good podcast to talk to people that I'd met on Facebook from different countries. So I had 12 different countries, and it went very, very well, and I was really, really happy with that. As for the books, I started writing when I was 20. Some people stopped writing through COVID. They lost their inspiration. And some people who always had a book inside them wrote the book because they had the time to do it. They were off work. So it worked both ways. For me, I was inundated with work because authors were so used to selling their books in conventions and face-to-face with readers, they had no idea about digital marketing. They'd never heard of Zoom. They'd never done a podcast in their life. So I had so many people coming to me asking me, what do I do with my book? How do I get it out there? And so I was able to train and teach plenty of authors how to do this kind of marketing. Now the cons are back open, but they have both ways now.
Yeah.
This door has always been open to them, but they never knew about it.
Right. That's interesting that you help people, and you've talked about digital marketing. Let's talk about more about that. This is what you do to help people and serve them, correct?
Yeah, I run a business called Author Assist, and it's basically everything from brainstorming an idea, helping an author get out of their head, or they're stuck somewhere in their book and they can't get over that mountain. I chat with them, I talk with them, and we go 1-2 hours, how long it takes, until they finally know where they're going. They're stopped at C and now they want to get to D, and we get to D. I make sure we get to D before we get off the call. And then there's marketing and promotion. If an author's constantly writing, they haven't got time to market and promote their own books, I do that for them. That's my job as a VA. I also do graphic design for a multimedia company called Go Indie Now. They serve all indies, music, films, and authors. And I do all their graphic design for YouTube, all their pictures and what do you call them? Screens, graphic screens. I do that for them. For the authors, I started Author Assist because in the 27 years I've been an author, I've learned so much. But I was at the stage when I first started, I was holding the book in my hand and I was like, well, now what?
Yep.
And so I learned now what? I learned where I needed to go. I learned the hard way. I got burnt plenty of times. And I didn't want that happening to other authors. So I wanted to give back what I've learned. And to do that, I've been doing it through Author Assist. Everything from marketing, promotion, social media, how to run social media, how to make their website the best it can be, how to make sure that people learn who they are and their books the correct way of posting, not the wrong way that nobody bothers looking at anymore. You have to think out of the box. You've got to come up with some great ideas, some marketing tools, some gold to make sure that you stand out from the other authors. So it's all of that packed up into 20 plus services. It's like a pick and mix menu. I'll have one of those, one of those, one of those. I do narrations where I talk, I do a small excerpt of the author's book. I read it so it comes alive, so that when someone listens to it, it's on video, they, instead of reading a blurb, they get to know who the characters are. They get to know the excitement, where the conflicts are in the story. So I do narrations by KK, and I also have my trailers by Author Assist, which is the one that I've won many awards on. I do trailers for businesses and for my clients who are authors. And yeah, so much more.
Yeah, that's awesome. And audience, remember, she said in the beginning, 27 years. She's doing a lot for you. All her contact info and all her books and her films will be in the show notes. So please take a look at them after you listen to this podcast and reach out to her. She'll definitely do a discovery call. I know she's a very serving person. She'll see if it's a fit, and she's such a great resource for anybody in the media with a book or film. Now, you mentioned podcast. I love podcasters on my podcast, which you are. Talk about your podcast.
Right. Well, my podcast is called Behind the Pen, and it started off with a journey for writers with your host, Karina Kantas. And I was just interviewing writers, finding out how they came to, how the creative juices flow, how they started, what they've done, their books, and what their plans are for the future. And then I thought to myself, well, it's not just writers that use the pen. Illustrators, artists, editors, musicians, songwriters, screenplay writers. And so I made it an artist journey, and it just exploded. I've had actors, film actors and TV show comedians and everything on my show. Once they've released a book, they come on the show to talk about it. I've had a rock band from India. I've had mediums that have actually been licensed and not had that test done where they show whether they're real or not come on my show, and that was chilling. That was really chilling, but absolutely amazing. So if you've got to see that one, that's a podcast you really need to listen to. And I also do the video cast. So my podcast is a video cast and an audio podcast, so people get both for the same price.
Yes.
And so Behind the Pen has been going for 2.5 years with the podcast and 3 years with the video cast. And I also edit and manage one of my clients' podcasts because he's blind. So I make sure that we do the interview. I help him on Zoom, record everything, then edit it all, put it all together in a nice package, put it out there, promote it for him. I do all that for him because he used to be a radio host, and so he loves doing that, and he doesn't want to stop doing that. And being blind shouldn't have you stop doing that. So I love helping him with that.
No, that's fantastic. And that's an eclectic, if I could say that word right, eclectic group. People, audience, you know what I'm saying? English was not my first language, just kidding. It was, but I'm still learning. But I love that on your podcast, the different groups of people that you're hitting. And it's a great point that you said about the pen, because you're right. Hey, a contractor building a home, he needs a pen. He's got to draw giraffes, right? I mean, we go on and on, which we won't, because people get the idea how awesome you are. And that's the cool thing. So I wanted
to open my platform to artists, authors, musicians that have never been seen before, never been heard before, and their books have never been read. You know, these are people that have a chance now to be seen by my group that I promote to, and hopefully their group they promote to, and others hopefully will share it, and the further it goes, the better. And it just gives them a platform to be seen and heard. And that's why I started Behind the Pen.
Karina just made a great point there. If you didn't catch it, and this person connect with this person, what do we call that? Networking. And in serving in business, that's one of my superpowers, if you want to call it, is networking and referring. That's fantastic, Karina, that you do that. And audience, I want you to remember that. I'm going to say it again, networking. Napoleon Hill, I think it was Earl Grey, a friend of Napoleon Hill, wrote Think and Grow Rich, said, all successful people he talked to, 100% of them said the first habit is contacting people. And Karina, you're doing an incredible job of that.
You do something for someone, you don't expect anything back, but it does come back twofold. You know, you do something. I might help somebody with a book and not charge them because of the situation they're in. I don't do it for great testimonials, they are fantastic testimonials, by the way. I don't do it for that. I do it because they need that. They need that help. And after I do that, something happens that something comes back to me, not from that, but something else. It's like you help people. If you have a chance to help someone during that day, even if it's to smile at someone in the supermarket, okay? Just give them a smile. That person might be going through so much, and that smile is going to make their day. It might change their life, that smile, you know? So just try and do what you can when you can to help people, because when you're helping others, you are helping yourself.
You're going to run my podcast. This may be called Karina Kantas's podcast, not Steve Ramona's, but that's exactly what I tell people. I mentor people for free, the same thing. I love that you said that, because we're losing that in this crazy world. And with this crazy world, I think we have more time to read. So I love for my guests, and Karina, I want you to tell the audience what your favorite book is and why that's your favorite book and how it's helped you.
Ooh, a book that I've written, one of mine.
Written or read, your choice. Spin the wheel.
Okay, I'm going to go with my book. It was my latest release. It has become my bestseller. It is translated now into 4 languages, and it's also won 2 awards, book awards. It is a dark mafia romance. This is a new genre that the ladies are loving for some reason. You are warned that it's explicit, it's graphic, But what do you expect when you are writing about the mafia? I don't sugarcoat it. I don't make up something. I tell the truth as it is, how dark it is. It's a fantastic love story mixed in. Um, and the reviews have been absolutely amazing. So if you love to have a go at diving into something a little bit darker, get out of that genre that you normally read, then check out Broken Chains, and you can find that on my Linktree link, which has all my links to all my social medias, my radio show, my podcast, everything I do. All my links are on my Linktree.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes again so you'll be able to read it and see it. And I like that you went to that book, because a lot of people in my guests will talk about a great business book. But in business, we have to have fun and entertainment. You've got to balance the family and the work. So this book, audience, if you're into this dark, and a lot of people are, and I love the mafia movie, so I'm going to read the book myself. But this breaks that monotony of your work. Maybe it's the middle of the day.
This is my business. This is my, as well as having author assist, I'm an author with 14 books. I write fantasy, I write erotica, I write dystopian, I write thriller, and then I write the dark romance. That is a business. My books are my business. So, when you say talk about a book, yeah, I'm not going to talk about Stephen King's book on writing, which is fantastic, by the way, for authors. I will talk about my book because it's my opportunity to promote myself as an author.
I love it. And that's great. And it's a great tie-in. Karina, I want to thank you. I've learned so much about you. And audience, there's some great tips out there. And if you want to write a book or do some type of film, please reach out to her. Again, her information is going to be in the show notes. I definitely think you should talk to her, give her 30 minutes, book a calendar appointment with her, and just learn about how you could do it. I know there's people out there thinking about writing a book. This may be your leap forward to maybe take that step, and Karina can help you. As always, in Serving in Business podcast, I'd love to leave the people, the audience, the listeners, whatever you want to call them, my best friends, a business tip. So if you can leave my audience with the greatest business tip that it's helped you, that can help them.
Yeah, it's straightforward. Everyone's heard it before, but you really need to take notice of it. If opportunity knocks, open up that door, because you have no idea where it will lead.